Hi, this is Ms. Salas, and today I'm going to show you how to write an effective introductory paragraph in history. Um, I know this seems, you've probably been writing introductory paragraphs, since elementary school, but I think it's important to note that an introductory paragraph in social studies might differ from the kind of introductory paragraph you might do in a language arts class on maybe a piece of literature. So it's really important that you can differentiate. So in your first opening paragraph, you're going to introduce your reader to your topic, okay? And you're also going to provide a thesis statement. But before you can do that, you have to introduce your reader uh, to the topic by providing background information on your topic. Okay, so it's really important. Like if you're writing about September 11th, the day that the two towers were brought down, and you're going to argue that September 11th changed America because it changed the way it changed the way our government handles privacy among its citizens. So if that was if that's what your thesis statement is going to be on, you're going to need to give me some background information on September 11th because you can't assume that I know anything about September 11th. So that would just be one example. Okay, so we'll get more into that, but just understand in your introduction you must have background information and you must have your thesis statement. Now, if you haven't already watched my video on how to write a thesis statement, you should probably stop here and watch that video first because that really sets a tone for your entire essay. So I would watch that first, then come back to this video. Okay, so let's get started. So in your introduction, you're going to let the reader know what you're going to be writing about. You're going to be telling them about your topic. Now you have to assume that your reader knows nothing about your topic. Okay, you can't assume that they know anything. So because you don't know who's going to be reading your essay. You don't know who your audience is. Now obviously you know that I'm going to be reading it. But you're not just writing for me, you're writing for a bigger audience. So you have to assume that they know nothing. So you have to be the expert and introduce them to your topic by providing some basic information on your topic, which can be an event, it can be a person, it can be an idea, but whatever that might be, you need to give some basic information such as who is involved in this event, or who is this idea about, or what is this idea, or who is involved in maybe creating this idea. Um, the when, you need to ask when this event took place, when did this idea come to be, when, let's see, for example, when did this person, when were they born, or when did they die? Basic information like that. Um, the what was this event about? You have to kind of give me a description of the event or the idea or the person. And then where did this event take place? Did it happen in England? Did it happen in America? Did it happen in France? Did this idea start in China, in ancient China? I mean, whatever it might be, you got to give me the where. Where did this event, idea, or person, where did they originate? Where did they start? And then one a really important question is, why did this event or idea, why did it take place, or why did it occur? So these are some of the questions you'd want to consider including in your background information in your introduction. So in the history classroom, this is really important because we're historians, and our most important job is to inform people of our topic. We have to inform them. They expect us to be the experts, so we have to be able to tell them the basics about it. So you're going to want to include it in your background information. Again, this is going to be in your introduction paragraph. Now, where can you find background information for your introduction? Well, you can look many places. You can look in the unit summaries that I've given you in class. You can look in a textbook. You can do some online research. You can look at primary source documents that I've maybe given you in class, or background essays that you received in class. For example, with the DBQ we're doing right now with Valley Forge, I provided you with a background essay, which you annotated. That would be a great place to start because it's going to have some information that's going to be very helpful in helping your reader to understand what went on at Valley Forge. Now keep in mind, even though you can use all of these, I don't want you copying word for word what you find online, or what you find in the textbook, or what you find in the background essay. That's called plagiarism. what you want to do is you want to summarize in your own words some key pieces of information that will help your reader to make sense of the topic you're going to be discussing and your argument. So be very careful of that. Do not plagiarize. Do not copy word for word. Summarize and put some of the main ideas into your own words, and you can use those. Alrighty, let's go to the next one. Once you provided enough background information on your topic, you can then introduce your reader to your main argument, which is your thesis statement. So when you feel like you've done enough job, you've done a good enough job introducing your reader to your topic, then you can present your thesis or your main argument, which is your main claim. So let's see. If I gave you a writing prompt such as which war is most significant or important in American history, explain using evidence from the documents, you would need to come up with a thesis or main argument or claim for this writing prompt. So in the previous video, I showed you how to take this question and formulate a response to this question with 3 main points. So here's an example of a thesis statement that I created. So this is going to answer this. So the American Civil War was the most important war in the history of the United States because it had the highest death toll of all other wars put together. From it emerged new forms of military technology, and lastly, it led to the end of slavery. So this is my response to my writing prompt, and you can see that I used I have 3 points that I'm emphasizing. That's why it's called a 3-point thesis statement. So this is my thesis statement, and again, if you want to get more information on that, watch the other video I did on thesis statements. So here's my thesis main argument. Now here's a sample of an introduction that I wrote for this topic. So again, my thesis is not until the very end of the first paragraph, which is the introductory paragraph. So my thesis comes pretty much in the last couple of sentences. But before that, I have to give a background, because if I just give my thesis statement to my reader, they're going to be like, the American Civil War, what's that about? When was that war? Who fought in that war? And so, you have to be able to give them some background so that they kind of know where you're coming from, and they have a little bit of information on this war before you begin arguing about why you think it was the most important. So you'll see here that I put, the American Civil War was a war fought within the United States of America between the North, which is the Union, and the South, the Confederacy, starting from 1861 and ending in 1865. So as you can see right here, I gave the time period, I gave the who of this. Basically, I'm telling who is fighting. So it's the North and the South. And then let's go on. It says this war was one of the most destructive events in American history, costing more than 600,000 lives. From the Southern point of view, this war was a war of rebellion or a war for Southern independence. From the Northern point of view, this war was seen as a revolution. So as you can see here in this section, I gave the why this war happened, and I gave it from different perspectives. So that's really important there. And then I go on to say, this unfortunate war started as a result of many years of differences between the Union and the Confederacy. It erupted after many years of conflict building up between the two regions and resulted in massive loss and change in America. What made this war so significant or important in American history is that even today, there are countless books written on the subject. I'm sorry, I read that last sentence wrong. What made this war so significant or important in American history that even today, there are countless books written on the subject? So I'm asking a question here. What made this war so significant or important in American history that even today, there are countless books written on the subject? So I'm kind of leading them in with the question. I'm kind of even giving them a little glimpse of the writing prompt here. And now, boom, I'm going to answer it. The American Civil War was the most important war in the history of the U.S. because it had the highest death toll of all other wars put together. From it emerged new forms of military technology, and lastly, it led to the end of slavery. So see, I led my reader into my thesis. I slowly led them into my thesis by letting them know about the topic and then showing them what I'm going to be arguing. So the rest of my essay is going to be focused now on the thesis. So this is just a sample of an introduction. Now, for your Valley Forge writing prompt, you should consider a couple things. There's two sets of different background information you can use. Obviously, you're going to want to include some background information on Valley Forge, like where was that military camp located? What were the general difficulties encountered by soldiers? Don't get too specific because you're going to do that in the rest of your essay. But you can give us a very simple, short glimpse of some of the difficulties encountered by soldiers. But you're also going to want to include some events that led up to the war overall. You have to place Valley Forge in context. You have to tell me, why there was a need to have a military base, why there was a need for Washington soldiers to even be there in the first place, and so that's going to go back to that's going to lead us back to why the war was even being fought. So that might be where you want to include some information from the unit summary on some of the British acts and laws, how the colonists responded, how they declared independence, and how from there they went through a bloody war and how conditions in the war were very difficult for soldiers. And then you can introduce your thesis statement, which is going to answer the writing prompt. If you were a soldier in Washington's army, would you have quit? And that's where you can bring in information from the primary source documents. So again, for the Valley Forge writing prompt, you're going to want to include background information in your introduction paragraph, which is going to include background information on Valley Forge itself, but also on the war in general. And then you're going to lead us into your thesis statement as to whether or not you would have quit if you were a soldier in Washington's army. I hope this is helpful, and stay tuned for my next video, which will talk about some tips for analyzing, doing some analysis in your essay. Hope this helps. Have a great day.